a galactic hero who destroyed the first Death Star, a major catalyst in the downfall of Palpatine and his galactic empire, and a crucial actor in the redemption of Anakin Skywalker and the re-emergence of the Jedi Order within the galaxy. None of these actions seem to matter for Luke Skywalker by the time of The Last Jedi, roughly 30 years after the Emperor was killed. Luke was reduced to isolation upon Ahch-To in the middle of nowhere within the unknown regions, merely waiting for himself and the Jedi Order that he dedicated his life to die. Instead of answering the call of his friends and assist the galaxy once more in the defense against the First Order, he committed himself to exile. But how did things go so wrong for Luke during the 30 years between Episode 6 and Episode 7? In this video expose, I will explain Luke Skywalker's biggest mistake and the reasons why his Jedi Order and the hopes that he had for it failed and was ultimately reduced to ash. It's necessary to start with the period immediately after Return of the Jedi, and more specifically, after the Imperial surrender following the Battle of Jakku, a period in which balance in the Force re-emerged within the galaxy. Following the advice of Yoda to pass on what he learned, Luke took it upon himself to begin a new era of Jedi Knights and restore the Jedi Order that had once protected the galaxy. However, before Luke could restore the Order, he needed to discover the answers to his numerous questions regarding the Jedi before he was comfortable enough to begin his mission. These questions led Luke upon a lengthy journey that took years to complete, wherein he searched the galaxy for every last piece of Jedi lore he could find. He did this to help put together the fragmented past of the Jedi Order and understand the best way to begin his new order, a difficult task considering that the Empire destroyed much describing the history of the Jedi. This caused Luke to have to proceed slowly and made his search for Jedi lore much more difficult. But in the end, the patience paid off. The result of Luke's quest throughout the galaxy was a better understanding about himself and his own destiny, yes, but it also resulted in a fuller understanding of the Jedi. He was able to discover and assemble ancient scriptures containing lost Jedi wisdom and abilities, items that were truly rare within the galaxy. Luke's journey also brought him into contact with other Force-sensitive individuals. He would gather these beings as his new disciples, and they would go on to become his first true students within his emerging Jedi Order. Together, after years of study and preparation, Luke was finally able to take what he learned and make it a reality, starting his own Jedi training temple and beginning the Order anew. To recap, following Return of the Jedi, lacking the confidence to really do anything different, and perhaps being guided by an overly zealous interpretation of the importance of Jedi tenets in his own victory over Palpatine and the renunciation of darkness by Vader, Luke merely restarted a Jedi Order that completely mirrored the order of the previous generation. Importantly, Luke only sought out the lore of the Jedi and relied solely upon their old texts and the practices and teachings that they contained. His study about the Force and the interpretations about other approaches outside of the dogma of the Jedi was severely restricted, believing that the ways of the Jedi were enough. Luke, like the Jedi Order before him, turned himself into an agent of the light, dedicating himself to only a single aspect of the Force and rejecting any teachings regarding the dark side. For example, Luke's journey didn't only uncover Jedi teachings, but also relics from the Order's past. For all of the speculation that the red Kyber crystal necklace adorned by Luke was the crystal of Anakin Skywalker, or perhaps symbolized Luke's own descent into darkness, it really represents quite the opposite. The necklace was a recovered Jedi Crusader pendant, with the fragmented Sith lightsaber crystal worn as a trophy by the Crusader, and proudly displayed as having vanquished their dark foe. Again, the necklace is a symbol of Luke's conquering and rejection of the dark side. His new Jedi Order was to be a clone of the Order that came before him, and Luke was quick to pass these tenets down to a new generation of Jedi who followed him. In short, the reflecting of the Jedi Order of old, and a failure to expand his understanding of the Force past that recognized by the Jedi, was Luke's biggest mistake and the reason for why he and his new Jedi Order failed. For just as much as any Sith or dark side user, the Jedi are contributors to the cycle of chaos within the galaxy. It isn't a coincidence that Luke's Jedi Order met the same fate as the Order from the previous era. The temple desecrated and consumed by flames, the annihilation of practically every member of the Order, and leaving darkness free to rule unchallenged within the galaxy. Further, it isn't a coincidence that the Order was undone by one of their own, and in this case, again by a descendant within the Skywalker lineage. For all of Ben Solo's contributions to the downfall of the new Jedi Order, equal, if not more blame needs to lie with Luke, certainly for the unwise path that he forged in mirroring the Order of old, but also through his own brief and devastating fall to darkness during his confrontation with his nephew. Luke's actions shouldn't be surprising at all. As a warrior of the light, a true Jedi, he knew only one action when faced with the dark side: to destroy it. In this way, the tenets of the Jedi are a destroyer of balance, leading to unavoidable chaos that would devastate the galaxy. Despite everything that Luke had learned from the ancient Jedi texts and his dedication to the tenets of the Jedi, at that moment, with just him and his nephew, Luke was a beacon of chaos and conflict, and in my opinion, a natural potential product of the Jedi. Although Luke was able to rein himself in, like most Jedi of the previous order were capable of, the damage had been done. A reliance solely upon the light will also allow darkness to rise. This is something that Luke himself understood. As stated within the Last Jedi visual dictionary, perhaps even before the destruction of his Jedi Order, but certainly after, Skywalker's studies revealed the cyclical nature of the struggle between light and dark, and the massive toll the galaxy pays with each cycle. And this is exactly it. Luke, in turning solely to the light as a means of continuing the struggle against the dark, contributed to the cycle of chaos inherent in the dichotomy. Perhaps out of a lack of confidence in himself, or again, because he legitimately took the example of Vader as meaning that light does win out in the end if one is committed to it strongly enough, Luke committed the same error as those Jedi who came before him. It was an error that's perfectly explained by both the Force Priestess Serenity and the Father of Mortis. Starting first with Serenity.
What you faced was a reflection of your hubris in the shadow of your soul.
And yet, clear I thought I was.
The beast is you, and you are the beast. To deny it simply gives it power.
Now I see. Simple, the answer was.
As Yoda learned from Serenity, the denial and suppression of darkness by himself and the Jedi, through their commitment solely to the light, fed the dark side's power, which is to say that it promoted the cycle of struggle between light and dark. And Serenity was correct, as both Yoda and Luke's Jedi Orders ultimately allowed for the rise of Palpatine and the Galactic Empire, and Snoke and the First Order, and the massive toll they would inflict upon the galaxy. Dedication solely to the light not only didn't prevent the rise of darkness, but it actually fed the power of the dark side, or the beast as Serenity called it. The Father of Mortis also provides Anakin with an important lesson about what happens when there is too much light. That is, where there's a strict adherence to only the light side of the Force.
A family in balance, the light and the dark. Day with night. Destruction replaced by creation.
Then why reveal yourselves to us?
There are some who would like to exploit our power. The Sith are but one. Too much dark or light would be the undoing of life as you understand it.
Again, too much dark or light leads to the undoing of life as one understands it. Although a balance was created after the death of Palpatine, at least as Luke understood it, Luke's decision to renew the Jedi Order based solely on tenets committed to the light side of the Force represented too much light. As predicted by the Father, this resulted in the undoing of life as it existed for Luke. The true path isn't the light of the Jedi, but of balance between the light and dark sides. I don't believe it's a coincidence that both characters who predicted the downfall of the Jedi, Serenity and the Father, are themselves representations of balance. Of course, the father held together the balance between his daughter and son, who represented the light and dark sides of the Force respectively. Serenity can be viewed as a balance of emotions, of calm, with the other Force priestesses representing the strong and powerful emotions of anger, sadness, joy, and confusion. Therefore, Luke's decision to raise the Jedi Order from the ashes and dedicate his order to the same failed philosophy was ultimately his greatest mistake and the cause of failure as depicted in The Last Jedi. Instead of rejecting the cyclical nature and struggle between light and dark, Luke promoted it by choosing the sole path of the light. Unfortunately, both he and the galaxy had to pay the far too familiar price of this struggle. But this doesn't mean that there wasn't a modicum of redemption for Luke. In the coming days, I'm going to set out the important truth that was recognized by him in his final moments upon Acto, and why there's still a crucial role to be played by Luke in Episode 9. So there we have it, Luke Skywalker's biggest mistake and the cause of his failure as seen in The Last Jedi. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive hangouts and book discussions. If not for me, for just hanging out and not really worrying about these important things.